Coming out of high school, Justin Jefferson was an undersized, unwanted two-star recruit. Even after dominating in college, 4 wide receivers were drafted ahead of him. So why was the best receiver in the league passed over by so many teams? Because there was something specific that made a lot of them pass on drafting him. And how did a cutting-edge, little-known test let LSU know before everyone else that he was going to be a generational talent? Well, we're about to find out, because this is what they aren't telling you about Justin Jefferson. As a high school sophomore, Justin looked nothing like a future NFL star. He was extremely undersized, standing at just 5'7" and weighing around 125 pounds. But then, out of nowhere, he hit a major growth spurt. He grew to 6'1" and gained almost 40 pounds. In his final high school season, Justin finally broke out. He hauled in 44 receptions for 956 yards and 9 touchdowns. However, even after this monster season, he was ranked as just a 2-star recruit and only had one Power 5 Division I offer. And the offer wasn't necessarily due to his talent either. The Jefferson name meant a lot to one school in particular: LSU. You see, Justin's older brother Jordan had been the school's starting quarterback, while his other brother Ricky played safety. So the Tigers coaching staff decided to take a chance on their little brother. When Justin arrived at LSU, he faced an uphill battle. He was buried on the depth chart and saw action in only 2 games as a freshman. He didn't catch a single pass that year, and some began to wonder if he'd ever see significant playing time. But Justin's determination was unshakable. During that offseason, he transformed his body, bulking up and adding strength while sharpening his route running technique. He studied film religiously, trying to figure out how top receivers created separation and how defensive backs reacted to different moves. And it wasn't too long before his dedication started to pay off. In 2018, his sophomore year, Justin emerged as LSU's leading receiver. He finished the season with 54 catches for 875 yards and 6 touchdowns. It was an incredible leap from his freshman year, but the best was still yet to come. The 2019 season was magical for Justin and LSU. Joe Burrow, a transfer quarterback from Ohio State, took over as the starter, and everything clicked. LSU's offense became an unstoppable force, with Burrow under center throwing to the best college football receiving duo of all time in Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase. Chase was a deep ball threat, and Justin would line up in both the slot and outside, where he would torment defenses with his elite route running, good hands, and talent for finding soft spots in coverage. Jefferson's junior season was historic. He caught 111 passes for 1,540 yards and 18 touchdowns, finishing second in the nation in receptions and receiving touchdowns. His chemistry with Burrow was undeniable, and the two put on a clinic week after week. The best moment of Justin's college career came in the college football playoff semifinal against Oklahoma. He torched the Sooners defense with 14 catches for 227 yards and 4 touchdowns, all in the first half. The performance was a statement that made everyone realize just how special Jefferson was. LSU went on to win the national championship, capping off an undefeated season and cementing themselves as one of the greatest college football teams of all time. However, despite all his success, Justin wasn't a lock to be an early first-round pick. His ability to get open often relied on his route running rather than speed. Scouts questioned whether he could consistently win matchups against NFL cornerbacks on the outside and doubted he could rely on his route running like he did in college. Also, he benefited from having a star quarterback, Joe Burrow, the #1 pick in this draft, and Jamar Chase, who helped divert a lot of defensive attention away from him. So how good was Justin Jefferson really? That was the question NFL teams were wondering. However, LSU's coaching staff already knew he was generational. You see, prior to the 2019 season, the school's athletic director purchased a $14,000 pair of glasses. These glasses had tiny cameras in them that tracked the wearer's eyes and the expansion of their pupils. So the coaches had the receivers catch passes with them on. All the players displayed minimal eye dominance, meaning both eyes delivered the same amount of information to the brain. Except one. Justin Jefferson. Jefferson displayed the ability to change eye dominance depending on the route he was running, which meant he was able to make whichever eye he needed more powerful depending on where he was looking and where he was moving. And that allowed whichever eye he needed to get information to the brain much faster than a normal person who has both eyes acting equally all the time. This is literally superhuman. He's the only player they tested that had the ability to do this. It's like a superhero power. Also guys, I've got to tell you about my socks. Yes, my socks. They're from Bombas, the sponsor of today's video. It's getting cold here in New York, and if you've been following me for a little bit, you know I hate it. But these socks make getting cozy easy. Look at this. Right now, I'm wearing the chunky rag calf sock. Look at that, look at that, look at that, and look at this flexibility. They're super comfy and even have arch support for my flat feet. I've got another style of their sock right here, and these are legit the most high quality, comfortable socks I've ever worn. Bombas also does something I love. For every pair of socks bought, they donate a pair to people experiencing homelessness. To this day, over 150 million essential clothing items have been donated. It's amazing. The holidays are also right around the corner, and Bombas make a great gift. They got so many different styles for all your day-to-day needs. These are their no-shows, and I love to wear sneakers with a dress, and you can't have your socks showing when you're wearing a dress. These are perfect for that, and they're comfortable. New customers get 20% off their first purchase, so go to bombas.com/SheGotSports and use code SheGotSports at checkout. During the pre-draft process, Jefferson wasn't viewed as that fast or that strong. He was really a below-average athlete, but yet again, he turned scouts' heads with his mind and eyes. When Justin took the S2 cognitive test, which forces athletes to make instinctual decisions without thinking, his results were off the charts. He scored in the 91st percentile of NFL players, showing an elite ability to see the field, filter through the defense, and find open space. But things were going to take a huge turn for Justin heading into the 2020 draft. As the draft rolled around, Justin watched and waited as 4 receivers were taken ahead of him, including Jalen Reagor, who was selected the pick just before him. Finally, with the 22nd overall selection, the Minnesota Vikings drafted Jefferson. The Vikings were in an interesting spot. Just a month before the draft, they had traded away their star receiver Stefon Diggs to the Buffalo Bills in a blockbuster deal. Diggs had been a cornerstone of the Vikings offense, known for his clutch plays and magnetic connection with quarterback Kirk Cousins. But the relationship between Diggs and the Vikings had soured, and the team had no choice but to make a move. In exchange for Diggs, Minnesota received a package of draft picks, including Buffalo's first-round selection, the 22nd overall pick, which they used to select Justin. It was a gamble. Would Jefferson be able to replace Diggs, or had the Vikings taken a chance on a player whose production might not translate to the pro level? It didn't take long for that question to be answered. By week 3 of his rookie season, Justin got his first chance to start and delivered an outstanding performance against the Tennessee Titans. He caught 7 passes for 175 yards and a touchdown, but he wouldn't stop there. Over the course of his rookie season, Justin shattered records and expectations. He finished the year with 88 receptions for 1,400 yards and 7 touchdowns, which broke the NFL's record for the most receiving yards for a rookie. Every week, he provided jaw-dropping plays, one-handed catches, sideline toe taps, and routes that left defenders lost in the dust. Justin didn't just fill the void left by Stefon Diggs. He created his own legacy. He also became an instant fan favorite, in part because of his famous gritty dance celebration. As just a rookie, he was named to the Pro Bowl and earned second-team All-Pro honors. But there were some concerns heading into Justin's second pro season. Most players experience a sophomore slump because opposing teams now have an entire year of film on them, which allowed them to game plan better. But Justin Jefferson, he had a sophomore explosion. In 2021, he elevated his game even further, finishing the season with 108 catches for 1,616 yards and 10 touchdowns. He ranked second in the league in receiving yards, proving his rookie season was no fluke. Even more impressive was how Jefferson handled being the focal point of opposing defenses. Teams would double and even triple cover him, but he still found ways to get open. By his third year in 2022, Jefferson had already solidified his status as one of the NFL's elite wide receivers, but he wasn't done improving. He shattered more records and elevated his game to MVP caliber heights. In week 1, Jefferson set the tone for what would be a monster season with a statement performance against the Packers. Facing a tough division rival, Justin made Green Bay's secondary look helpless. He had a jaw-dropping 184 receiving yards and 2 touchdowns. Game after game, he delivered highlight reel catches and put up numbers that were incredible. One of his most iconic moments that season came in a Week 10 game against the Buffalo Bills. On a 4th and 18 play with the game on the line, he made this insane one-handed contested grab. The catch felt like it defied logic and physics. It was incredible. Then, just a few weeks later, he had his best game of the season, hauling in 11 catches for an unreal 223 yards. By the end of the regular season, Jefferson led the league with 1,809 receiving yards, which broke the Vikings' single-season record previously held by Hall of Famer Randy Moss. He also finished with 128 receptions, yet another franchise record, and took home the Offensive Player of the Year award. Something that separated Justin from the rest of the league that season was his elite hand placement. DBs will often look at the receiver's hands and use it as a signal to start throwing their own hands up to deflect the pass. So Justin didn't bring his hands up to catch the ball until the very last moment. Jefferson and Cousins' connection in 2022 led the Vikings to an impressive 13-4 regular season record. However, they weren't viewed as Super Bowl contenders because 11 of their 13 wins were within 1 score. But Minnesota had the chance to prove all the haters wrong in the playoffs. Unfortunately, that time never came as the Vikings lost versus the Giants in the wildcard round. Heading into 2023, expectations were high for the Vikings again. From the start of the year, Justin picked up right where he left off. Defenses knew what was coming, but stopping him was nearly impossible. By the end of September, Justin led the league in receiving yards and touchdowns, making it look like he could challenge the single-season receiving record once again. But little did he know, everything was about to change. In a Week 5 game against the Chiefs, Justin suffered a hamstring injury and was placed on IR. Then, just 3 weeks later, disaster struck. Quarterback Kirk Cousins tore his right Achilles, which sidelined him for the remainder of the year. When Justin did return from his hamstring injury in Week 14, he was left with backups Nick Mullins and Josh Dobbs as his quarterbacks. But, Justin is pretty freaking good at football and was somehow still able to rack up over 1,000 receiving yards in the 10 games he played. Overall, 2023 was a rough season for the Vikings. They finished 7-10 and missed the playoffs completely. One thing was clear though, Justin Jefferson was elite, and in the 2024 offseason, the Vikings gave him his well-deserved payday. They signed him to a 4-year, $140 million contract, making him the highest-paid wide receiver in the history of the NFL. And there was more good news too. Justin's QB, Kirk Cousins, was going to be healthy again and help lead the Vikings back to the playoffs, right? Well, not exactly. In that same offseason, Kirk got a massive 4-year, $100 million deal from the Atlanta Falcons. So Minnesota went on to draft his replacement, J.J. McCarthy, in the first round of the draft. Unfortunately, McCarthy suffered a torn meniscus during the preseason, which required season-ending surgery. So the Vikings were set to start the other quarterback they signed during that offseason, Sam Darnold. Minnesota, who Vegas had their odds at 7.5 wins before the season, are currently sitting at 6-2. They are without a doubt the biggest surprise team so far this year. Sam Darnold is playing the best football of his career, and a big reason why is his #1 go-to guy, Justin Jefferson. Through the first 8 games of the year, Justin already has 780 receiving yards and 5 touchdowns. What makes him so special is how well he does all the little things. His release, footwork, double moves, hand placement, and route depth are all elite. That all adds up to a big advantage, and when you throw in the intangibles like competitiveness, drive, and attitude, it's no surprise you have an absolute beast. At just 25, Jefferson is going to continue to dominate in the NFL for a long time. I just can't help but wonder how high his ceiling really is. When his career is all said and done, are we going to be mentioning him in the same conversations as Jerry Rice, Randy Moss, Calvin Johnson, and all those all-time greats? I think there's a real chance. Puka Nacua is another receiver that was overlooked and passed over by every single team multiple times in the draft. As a rookie, he shattered multiple records and had even better stats than Jefferson. If you want to know why every team passed on him, check out this video up here. His story is heartbreaking but super inspirational.